Welcome into Arsenal Report, and big news that Fulham could be saving Arsenal a lot of money by potentially going in for not only Reece Nelson, who we've spoken about already, but also Alexander Zinchenko. Now, we know Zinchenko has got only 12 months left on his contract, but he's a very viable player and a very useful player in the Premier League for pretty much any team. He can play left back. He can play as an 8. He can play in a double pivot. He can play further forward as an attacking midfielder. He's just so technically skilled that wherever he receives the ball, he is a threat. He's a great ball carrier, excellent passer. And Fulham, although they have Anthony Robinson at left back, I'd imagine they're looking at Zinchenko as a possible midfield solution. I think he could come in there and really help Marco Silva play the way he wants to play and kind of be that link up between the back line and their very strong attack. Now, what kind of fee are you getting for Zinchenko? If he had 2 years left on his deal or 3 years left on his deal, I'm thinking you're looking at 25, 30 million. But with 1 year left and the wages he's on, I'm thinking it's going to be like 12 to 15. Maybe there's some add-ons. Maybe Arsenal are paying some of his wages. But nonetheless, would be a huge coup for Arsenal to get rid of him for that 15 million range, and then Reece Nelson. Where will it end up with Reece Nelson? There was rumors of a loan move to Fulham with a obligation to buy around 15 million, maybe 18 million pounds. I think Arsenal really are kind of done with the loan with obligation to buy. I think we've seen it happen before with the loan, and then the player gets hurt and they don't meet the requirements for the obligation or whatever it might be. For Arsenal, they'd probably rather take Reece Nelson's sale at a similar price as Zinchenko. You get 30 million for these two combined to Fulham. You get it done. It's a bummer to have to play them every year in the Premier League, but it makes sense to get the most amount of money for them to stay in the Premier League, and that looks to be where they're going to both end up. So hopefully Fulham come through and save us yet again. Now, full sell-on clauses. It's interesting because we should have gotten a little bit more from this Aaron Ramsdale deal, but we are going to get nearly 10 million euros from the sell-on clauses of Granit Xhaka going from Leverkusen to Sunderland, and from Aaron Ramsdale going to Newcastle from Southampton. It's not spectacular, but Aaron Ramsdale now is going to have secured us nearly 30 million over the past 2 years in transfer fees. Granit Xhaka nearly 30 million over the past 3 years in transfer fees. It's not nothing. Other clubs, I think, are a lot better at it. You see a lot of clubs get 25% sell-on clauses for their players. It seems like we're getting more like 15%, 12 to 15% sell-on clauses for our players, but very useful money for us right now as we go into these final few weeks now before the Premier League season is going to start. Now, we absolutely do need to make one more purchase, but I definitely think at this point there is no way we are not waiting for sales, as a lot of the news has slowed down. But these little increments of money that are coming in, the sell-on clause is $8.5 million, potentially a loan move with a loan fee that could happen. The idea that we could sell 2 players to one club for kind of a fixed fee. These types of moves can help us open up for what looks to be our final huge signing, and hopefully our final huge signing of Eberechi Eze. Now, there's some news that came out here on Eze's deal in the past couple of hours that the release clause has an expiration date of the first day of the Premier League season. So Palace will either sell him by then or the deal will be gone. That gives us about 16 days until we can get this deal done for Eze. Palace's release clause is 68 million pounds. They originally were asking for it all to be paid up front. There was rumors that it was a 3 installment fee. That was fake news. Now the negotiations have gotten it to Palace want 30 million pounds first payment up front. See, now that makes sense to me because that gives Palace the money to go out and spend on a replacement. They're not going to invest that money fully into one player. That 30 million potentially can get them the replacement level that they need to bring in for Eze. So when they bought Eze, he wasn't who he is now. Buying somebody of a similar age when they bought Eze 4 years ago, who can come in, yes, are Palace going to go out and win the Europa League and go win another FA Cup? Probably not. But they can continue to be competitive, continue to maybe compete for Europe if they can spend that 30 million pounds up front, in the next couple of weeks before the transfer window ends. But that also means for Palace that as we get closer to the Premier League season starting, they're going to be more unwilling to sell and don't have to sell unless the release clause is met. So if the Arsenal just meet the full release clause, that's it. Deal's done. Eze's already signed his contract with Arsenal or agreed his contract with Arsenal and is ready to go. It'll be interesting to see where this one goes. it'll be very telling in the next week if Arsenal move on to other targets, or we kind of see this negotiation keep going and we get that release clause maybe down a little bit, or that first installment down a little bit, because Arsenal obviously have spent a lot this summer, almost 190 million, 187 million pounds at this point. So they'll definitely be looking to save where they can. And finally, we've got another preseason match against Tottenham tomorrow in Hong Kong. It does appear that maybe Noni Madueke could be involved. It's not 100% clear when he could be involved in general in the preseason. If it's not this match, it's most likely the match back at the Emirates in August. I'm not sure he'll have traveled yet for this match. We may see Victor Gyökeres, but I wouldn't imagine he will start, as he's just in his first training session today. But in general with Noni Madueke, whenever we first see him, it'll mean a lot if what we see from him is either starting at left wing or being the first sub off the bench at left wing versus being Saka's rotation option at right wing. That's going to be very telling as to, number one, what did we purchase Noni Madueke for? Did we purchase him as Saka cover or as a starter? And number two, are we comfortable potentially with ending this window without bringing in a left winger? That's the more interesting thing to me, because if he started at left wing, then the idea is, even if we do sign Eze, we didn't really see Eze as necessarily a left winger as much as an extra attacker, someone who can play as a 10, someone who can probably play off the right, very comfortable off the left, but really a more central player. And we're purchasing Noni as that left winger. So there's going to be a lot to learn from our first interactions with Noni Madueke on the pitch for Arsenal. That's Arsenal Report. Daily updates on everything Arsenal: transfers, tactics, formations, breakdowns, anything and everything Arsenal. So hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.